In ancient Greece, myths gave meaning to a confusing world. They recorded historic feats, explained nature and human behavior, and guided how people should live. The story of Medusa you'll see today on this channel is no exception. She was a terrifying being who could end a man with one piercing look, making her nearly invincible. To tell Medusa's story in detail, let's go back to the early days of Greek myths. The Gorgon was a female monster so terrifying that anyone who dared look at her turned to stone. Descriptions varied but often mentioned snake-like skin and teeth, boar tusks, or bronze claws. Wings were sometimes included, though these details varied. Gorgons first appear in Homer's 8th century BC works, but the myth is likely much older. This face staring directly at you wasn't just to ward off evil eyes and spirits, but people too. For instance, it was used atop oven doors in ancient Attica, southern Greece, so that no one, including curious children, would dare open the oven, thus avoiding accidental burns and cold air entering, which could ruin the cooking. Today, historians agree this ancient amulet, the Gorgoneion, embodied death itself. After death, skin shrinks, the face swells grotesquely, eyes bulge, and the tongue protrudes. We're no longer familiar with these sights, as we've long been shielded from death. Specialists handle corpses now, but in ancient times, seeing dead bodies was common. In ancient times, death was everywhere, yet it was no less frightening. The Gorgon appeared on all sorts of artifacts: coins, shields, pottery, plates, mosaics in temples and palaces, often near entrances to ward off unwanted visitors. They also frequently adorned and protected oracles. It's believed the Gorgon's image was inspired by these pre-existing amulets. Around 700 BC, Greek poet Hesiod wrote in his Theogony of 3 Gorgons, daughters of sea deities Ceto and Phorcys. The sisters were named Steno, Euryale, and Medusa. Medusa was cursed. Unlike her sisters, she was mortal. Over time, the Gorgon's image evolved from monstrous to more human and less terrifying. Greek and Roman versions gradually portrayed Medusa as increasingly attractive over the centuries. The Roman poet Ovid recounts in his ancient work, the Metamorphoses, that Medusa was a stunningly beautiful woman. In one of these tales, we'll tell the story of a Medusa so beautiful that no man could resist her charm. She was admired by all, and every man wished to be her suitor. But she dreamed of becoming Athena's priestess, so she couldn't yield to love's temptations. Absolute purity was a key requirement to become a priestess of the goddess Athena. Goddess Athena was Athens' protector and a virgin deity herself. Carnal acts were not part of her world. She was beyond the reach of any male desire. Her temple servants were to be virgins, dedicating themselves to the goddess, not to domestic life or child rearing. While the story I'm telling might be myth, the Temple of Athena is real. It still stands proudly atop the Acropolis in Athens. The Parthenon, Greek for virgin's house, was finished in 430 BC. Athens, Greece's premier city, wanted a temple to match its grandeur. So they built the Parthenon. Inside stood a massive gold and ivory Athena statue, nearly 40 feet tall. It was one of the ancient world's most awe-inspiring sights. Now we delve into a tale of rivalry between Athena and Poseidon. Uncle and niece both vied to be the city's patron deity. Zeus, the supreme god, had to step in and let the people decide. Athena and Poseidon were asked to offer gifts to the city. Both agreed to offer gifts to the Athenians, who would choose their favorite. Poseidon struck the ground, creating a saltwater spring, which Athenians found impractical. Athena, in turn, presented the first olive tree. The Athenians chose the tree and Athena as city patron for its wood, oil, and food. The Olympian gods then named the region after Athena, calling it Athens. Poseidon, enraged, flooded the area. Zeus intervened, ordering him to stop. Poseidon, intense and powerful, can switch from calm to fury in an instant. He'd never forget that defeat and waited to avenge himself on his niece, Athena. Meanwhile, Medusa stayed loyal to her goddess as a priestess, tending the temple and worshipping her, becoming the ideal priestess. Medusa's rituals drew more and more followers, captivated by her grace and the way she performed her duties. Her hair was a wonder that, with each movement, mesmerized all who beheld it. One man boldly and rashly declared that Medusa and her hair rivaled Athena herself in beauty. Atop Mount Olympus, Athena watched the commotion in her temple, upset and outraged that many came to admire Medusa, not glorify her. But she resisted punishing those who diverted their devotion to Medusa. However, he grew jealous of her, seeing her as a vain priestess. Poseidon noticed this and saw Athena watching her most beautiful priestess. He decided to use this lovely young woman as his instrument of revenge. In a fit of lust, Poseidon ambushed and harassed the young woman. She fled to the temple seeking protection. Poseidon enters and violates the virgin priestess in Athena's sacred temple, a sacrilegious act that steals her virginity, a crime in the eyes of the gods. Medusa is shattered, her innocence taken, her life forever changed. With no other choice, she prays to Athena, explaining all that happened. Athena is furious to see her temple desecrated in such a manner and decides to unleash her wrath not on the powerful Poseidon, but on Medusa, the victim of it all. But in the goddess's eyes, she deserved punishment. Her vanity and exuberant behavior had caused all this. The punishment was terrifying for Medusa, who was incredibly beautiful, admired, and loved being among people. She undergoes a horrific transformation. Her skin cracks and wrinkles, her long silky hair turns into a writhing mass of venomous snakes, and the most terrifying and powerful part of her curse is that from now on she would turn to stone anyone who dared to look into her eyes, forcing her to isolate herself from all human society, never able to interact with anyone again. She flees, exiled to a remote and desolate island for the rest of her days. During her escape, some city residents saw her and were petrified upon meeting her gaze. Survivors spread the news about the horrible serpent-haired creature. Her infamy as a terrifying monster spread, and she quickly became the target of many glory-seeking warriors. None returned. They only added to Medusa's stone garden collection, while she, in total isolation, lost more of her humanity with each passing day. Then came Perseus, son of Zeus and the mortal Danae. He'd promised King Polydectes of Seriphos he'd bring back the Gorgon Medusa's head. As Zeus's son, he was aided and set off to find Medusa with some valuable items. A helmet that made its wearer invisible. A magic pouch to safely hold Medusa's head and winged sandals. Surprisingly, Athena gave him a bronze shield so polished its surface was mirror-like. And from Zeus, his father, he received a special sword to behead the monster. With winged sandals, Perseus flew to the world's end. Using his shield as a mirror to avoid Medusa's gaze, he approached and beheaded her. From the severed neck emerged Poseidon's children, whom Medusa carried in her womb, a giant warrior named Chrysaor, and a winged horse, the famous Pegasus. Perseus returned to Seriphos to turn King Polydectes and his entire court to stone. He also slayed a sea monster about to devour Princess Andromeda, whom he then married. He then petrified her uncle and much of her family. Finally, after turning all his rivals to stone, Perseus decided to give Medusa's head to Athena. There are various accounts of why Athena helped Perseus kill Medusa. One is that Athena was concerned about the deaths Medusa caused. Another reason is that she knew Medusa was pregnant and thought killing her would also kill Poseidon's child. A kinder interpretation is that Athena, regretting her unfairness to Medusa, believed only death could free her from that cursed existence. Upon receiving Medusa's head, which she had turned into a monster, Athena placed it prominently on her shield, the Aegis. Thus, Medusa's head became a symbol of divine protection for both gods and many mortals. Ancient art often depicts warriors with Medusa's head on shields, and some Roman emperors, like Trajan, wore it on their chests. We also see it protecting Alexander the Great, considered the greatest of all Greek conquerors.